What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the 2024 SSPN Draft Reaction Show. We are live here watching the show with all of you. And I know in all of these episodes recently, Ethan, where we've been having to get to all of these topics, in an hour and 30 minutes, just like trying to, punch in all the analysis that we can. We haven't been able to maybe pay attention to the comments as much as we usually do in our live streams and stuff like that. So I'm excited to get to that tonight, Ethan, because I'm sure while we wait for the fourth pick, of course, there's the option of a potential trade that could happen. But we can't predict that. But as of right now, 3 picks before the fourth pick and then 3 picks in between. We are excited to hang out with you guys, talk Spurs, react to that fourth pick, then react to the 8th pick or a trade if it happens, Ethan. How you feeling here as it is draft time?
I'm feeling pretty good, dude. This is, if I'm not mistaken, no, I am mistaken. I was going to say this is the first time we've had to watch 2 first-round picks in a draft, but I forget about the Luka Samanic draft where we took him at 19, then Keldon at 28 or 29? 29. So I guess we had to wait between 2 picks once in our lifetime, but this feels like the more important of the 2, Jude.
Well, we've never had 2 top 10 picks
Right,
in the
right.
same draft, which makes it very different. Even if they were just 2 lottery picks, Ethan, probably the closest thing we've had to this was a couple years ago. I think now it would be 3 years ago when Jeremy Sohan, Malachi Branham, and
Right. Oh my
Blake
God, I'm
Wesley
so
were.
dumb.
Okay, but 2 of those picks were in the top 20s, though. So it's still not exactly the same. You know what I'm saying, Ethan?
That's shame on me for trying to be ESPN and giving like those stupid stats at the bottom of the screen that are so like filtered down, you know what I mean? Like first
Yeah.
guy to get 20, 10, and 10 and 6 while also wearing a size 6 shoe. Like I feel like I just tried to do that and it backfired in my face.
Oh my gosh. Well, I just edited my screen here, Ethan, where I can see you and the draft on my left. I think I'm going to turn up the volume here in a second as we're about to get started. Although it wouldn't surprise me if it didn't really start until like 7:15 because
Right.
you know how TV works. But want to get into some of these comments here. We got Paul Mallet in here, or Mallet, excuse me. Here we go. Adam
Malay.
Silver's on here. I'm just in the French,
Yeah,
it's
you're in that
always on my
mode.
mind. But Adam Silver is on the screen.
Is he?
For me, he is. Am I ahead of you?
You might be on a different channel. Here, let me.
I am on ESPN, I think. Maybe I'm on ABC.
I'm on NBA TV, so let me
Oh, that's why. Yeah,
let
yeah.
me move. Let me move.
He's just doing his normal opening speech, but
Hello and welcome. You like
okay.
my Adam Silver
Now,
impression?
now I'm just gonna mute it because you were so accurate with that. I'm just gonna have it on until somebody's on the clock.
I got
Miles
the real one.
says, "Well up for this draft and SSPN show. Hope Spurs draft Castle. He seems mature and would work well with Wemby." That is definitely. I'll say that right now, Ethan. If I had to make a prediction for number 4, I think it is going to be Stephon, and that's regardless of my opinion on Reed Shepherd and that whole conversation. I would have said that last week as well. So yeah, that's really what I feel most confident about. It's number 8 that gets a little bit messy for me, and we're going to get to some of these comments again. But I don't know if you saw the report earlier today, Ethan, but Kristen Peak, who works for Yahoo Sports, reported that Tijan Salon is being targeted by the Hornets at number 6.
Wow.
So that definitely throws a wrench in Tijan at number 8. That probably would have been my prediction. And it's ironic, too, because Jonathan Gavoni's mock draft, his last one from last night, had Stephon and Tijan. So if that really does come to fruition, definitely a Cody Williams, like we had in our mock draft, is a name that pops to my mind. But it'll also be interesting to see who else, is down there if some other potential shenanigans happen, Ethan.
Do you have the mock draft pulled up right now, Jude? Can you see it?
I do not. I have the draft itself pulled up.
I think I have it open. I was just curious because there's a name that we haven't talked too much about.
Okay.
And when I was watching NBA TV earlier when I was cooking dinner, they brought him up as somebody that could surprise some people because of how his previous season went in the G League, and that's Ron Holland, who I believe was projected to go number 9. Yeah, number 9 on Kevin O'Connor's mock draft from 619. So that's a name that I didn't really give that much thought to, but for the same reasons that we like Cody Williams, we also have to keep him in mind as well. I know he's a little bit shorter, maybe a little less upside, and obviously G League Ignite. There's a lot of question marks around their season last year, but that's another name to keep an eye on, especially at 8 if Tijon is not there,
For
um,
sure.
or if we're looking for a wing.
Okay, I'm going to throw something at you here, Ethan, because Kevin O'Connor has stuck with this as I believe Atlanta is now officially on the clock, or at least they're about to be.
Yeah,
Um, but Kevin O'Connor, in like multiple of his mock drafts in a row, um, has had the Spurs taking Matas Buzelis at number 4.
I saw that. I don't know how I feel about that, Jude. I just feel like everybody else has been talking about Castle or Reed Shepherd or who else? Even the Dalton Klingon, I feel like has more likelihood than Matas Buzelis, but maybe that's just me.
Um, I mean, I can if I had to rank my preferred choices at 4, I don't think he would necessarily. I mean, I'd have to really go over it, but I don't think he'd be in my top 3.
Hmm.
Especially depending on who's on the board. It all comes down to the shooting with me and a
Right.
little bit of the frame. Like I think the combine measurements was 6'9", 195. Um, and I don't. I mean,
I like that size, to be completely honest. I know he's like slim, but still.
I like the positional fit, but for me, I just, and this is just my personal opinion. Maybe down the road, I'm proven completely wrong, Ethan. But at that point, I just rather take Tijon
Yeah.
because Tijon's a more proven shooter. He has a bigger frame, and as much as maybe he doesn't have all the rest of the other stuff developed yet, he's one of the youngest players in the draft. And I think that the flashes that he has shown, on top of the fact that we also talked about this, Ethan, like because in this scenario, let's just say that Matas Buzelis would play the floor 4 because he could easily slide in there, with his size and defensive versatility as well. But again, we talked about it before, Ethan. That person is probably going to be more of a spot up shooter than somebody who's going to be putting the ball on the floor,
True.
that much off the bench. Maybe that would be a different case, but that's another reason kind of why I value Tijon a little bit more than him. I understand now if you're going to say, if you're
Mm.
going to, the counter argument is Matas has a higher floor than Tijon. I'm not going to disagree with that, but the shooting that he does have already, and I know that we've also talked about shooting can be taught, and I
Mhm.
do think that's a thing as well. And definitely the G League Ignite season, like we have to keep in context that Ron Holland got hurt, injured. He got hurt early in the year. Looks like the Hawks are clapping. Not to go all over the
I'm
place
looking
here,
at it
Ethan,
too,
but
yeah.
it looks like the Hawks just made their first round or their number 1 pick. The pick is in, and they seem very excited. So with all of the not to, just stop mid thought there talking about Matas versus Tijon, Ethan,
Mm.
but with all of the speculation on this Hawks pick, they seemed, and the uncertainty on who they were going to pick, they just seemed very excited right there. So that's another thing with, all of this stuff, how much of it is smoke screens.
Right, that's what they were talking about on NBA TV. They were like, all this news that Atlanta hasn't decided on who their number 1 guy is. They were like, yeah, that's completely bogus. And he was like, maybe if you were like at 5 or 6 and the likelihood of who falls to you is a little bit more unknown. He's like, but they've definitely had this figured out for a while. Yeah, and they definitely they looked very excited, Jude. So I'm excited to see who it is whose name we get called.
Absolutely. I just turned on the volume, but just to finish up that thought that I was talking about there earlier, Ethan, basically just what I was getting at is even though shooting can be taught, I I just like the skill set. Bluntly, I just like the skill set that Tijon has right now coming in immediately.
Mm.
Because as much as there are some good things that Mata showed, with his post game, like I said, his defensive versatility, I think the frame as well as the shooting is just, as well as the age too, is just a better fit for like the modern NBA. Um, and especially, well, and I'm saying this, and we're talking about Matas at 4. So I'm saying this also where we're pairing Tijon, with somebody who's a little bit more NBA ready. So that's something that is also key
Mhm.
there. Um,
That's the
but yeah,
caveat.
I think you get what I'm saying there though with his size. Like I don't worry about him getting bullied as much with his frame at the 4, on top of him having shown more proven catch and shoot ability.
What's funny about this draft, Jude, and I agree with everything that you said, is there's nobody that I dislike. There's nobody that I'm going to be upset with that we take. It's just a matter of taste for me. And at 4, if it's between Matas, let's put Reed in there, Castle. Personally, I would just rather have Castle, and then second choice would be Reed. That's not an indictment on Matas Buzella. It's like he could probably be a very, very good player and a guy that fits well next to Victor. But it's just a matter of preference and who I personally would rather take.
Yeah, and the last thing that I'm going to say here, Ethan, is I think we are approaching this pick
Yep.
as we are. Is that I wouldn't be mad at Matas, even though he's not my preferred player. I wouldn't be mad at him at 4. But let's hear.
Here we go. Can we do my impression? The number 1 pick.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what everybody was saying.
Risacher is off the board.
So no trade for the Spurs. Moving up to number 1. All the speculation there. There was all the talk about Donovan Clingan as well, but it ends up just being Zachary Risacher. Ethan, what is your instant reaction here from this pick?
It makes sense. I never thought the Dalton Clingan thing was going to happen. I always thought it was between Risacher and Alex Sarr. It makes sense for the Hawks. The defense has been a big problem for them all year. If they keep Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, they don't need someone to put the ball on the floor right off the bat. They just need someone to space the floor and lock up to help their defensive identity. And maybe down the line has a higher ceiling that can pair well with either Trae or DeJounte in the future. But he's a guy that seamlessly fits with their team right now and is an improvement at the wing position. So if they want to continue to try and compete, he fits that need for them. But if they want to blow it up and kind of build around him, they have that potential as well.
You know, they were able to get him in for a workout, unlike Alex Sarr. And obviously, with the reaction that they had, I think they're pretty bought in to Zachary Risacher. He has versatility at the 3 or the 4. I think coming into the league, he's going to be more of a 3 just because he's got to put on some size. But I think with his height over time, he could become a potential 4. But as I'm saying that, Ethan, got to remember that Jalen Johnson is also on this Atlanta team, who is the one player that they mentioned, according to all the reporting, he was the one player they mentioned as untouchable. So with that being said, actually Risacher probably is just going to be their 3 next to him. I know they have Onyeka Okongwu on contract still at center. I've been hearing things and reading things that apparently they want to get rid of Clint Capella, who just has 1 year on his deal. That's also why there was a lot of smoke about them being interested in Clingan, potentially replacing Clint Capella with Clingan. But with all that being said, Ethan, yeah, I mean, what was Bojan Bogdanovic playing the 3 for them for most of the year? Or Bogdan, my bad, not Bojan. He got traded today.
one of the bogeys.
You know what I'm talking. You see how I got that confused, though, right?
Yeah, I think it was actually Sadiq Bey.
You're right. Yeah.
And obviously they've had some poor decision making in previous drafts. I think they thought, what's that gentleman's name, who was supposed to be a sniper for them, has not fully panned out. I'm forgetting his name.
AJ Griffin.
Him, but also another guy. There's another wing that they've drafted in like the past 3 years.
Yeah,
I'm looking up their roster right now.
There's some other Hawks that I can think of, but they're not wings. Let's
see. I sat next to his wife actually at a Spurs game.
Oh wow.
Weird connection there. She was very nice. Where is he?
Matthew Jones says I'm taking Ethan at number 1.
Appreciate that, Matt. That's actually a coworker of mine. Thanks for being in here. DeAndre Hunter is who I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he's decent, but he's not who they thought he would be at this point in his career. Like, I don't even think he starts full time for them, and he's a guy they spent a lottery pick on. So,
and they gave him a big contract too. He's locked up right now. So, Kevin Huerter's another name, but he ended up getting moved.
I think moving off of Clint Capella's gonna, if they're able to do that, will open up a lot of things for them. Because with Risacher, they're kind of taking a direction of versatility, where in the past they've been kind of stuck in mud in a very similar offense to exactly what we saw in Houston when Clint Capella was their starting center with James Harden. And obviously Houston took a weird turn and went with PJ Tucker at center. I'm not suggesting
Yeah.
Atlanta does something like that, but to get a more versatile big that can maybe stretch the floor and play 5 out would do wonders for that team.
Yeah, and I know, like I said, they just signed Onyeka and Kongwu, and I
Right,
know he's not the biggest guy, but he is somebody who can play a little bit more perimeter defense. But
for sure.
I've had this comment up a couple times. Tavot Plunderer. I hope I got that name right. He says Sarr probably picked 2 and Reed 3, and I agree, which means probably at number 4, what our prediction was earlier. Obviously, we'll see what happens as the Washington Wizards pick is in here, Ethan.
Ooh boy, here we go.
But I think this is really looking like Stephon Castle.
You mean Sarr?
No, Stephon Castle at number 4.
Oh,
I'm
for
saying
us. Okay, sorry.
if Sarr goes 2 and Reed goes 3, like the comment I just pulled up.
Sorry,
That's
yes,
what I'm saying.
I was like half listening. I apologize. I was looking at the
Well,
comments.
you gotta also watch the draft at the same time, Ethan. We're trying to
I know.
juggle a lot here.
I know. Wizards, man, they traded Denny Avdia today. Sorry, I just butchered his name. Denny Avdia. Did you see that trade?
Yes, I did. And Noah Perez says thoughts on the Devy trade. I
They got Malcolm Brogdon
totally
and
butchered
the
his name there.
14th
Sorry.
pick. No, you're fine. They got the 14th pick in Malcolm Brogdon. I think there was another aspect to that, but I don't remember. Obviously, the Wizards are taking a rebuilding direction again. They will continue to rebuild until they're a better team. I always liked Denny Avdia. I thought he had a lot of upside coming into the draft. He was a guy that I would love to have brought into the Spurs. Even when he was drafted and even today, I think he provides a lot of versatility. But they're just blowing everything up. They're reconstructing from the ground up around whoever they're about to pick, and then the 14th pick. So I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, I think the other thing about the Denny trade is they signed him to that contract, but then on top of that, you've got I think that was before they drafted Bilal.
True.
And
True.
so I think they're just trying they see Bilal's potential. There's the rumors about his growth already. As much as Denny's a really solid player, as the second pick is about to happen.
Here we go. Oh, gee, I don't know what you just did, but I didn't. Okay, there you go. You're back. For a second, your mic cut out bad. It was like
Ooh.
really far away, but you're back. You're back.
Alex
There he
Sarr at number 2. So unless there's a trade here, because there have been rumors about Houston trading at number 3, this is probably going to be Reed Shepherd.
Who did I see that wanted to move up to 3? I saw. Did you send me a rumor, or did I just read that?
No, there's been rumors about that for weeks.
I think it was the Grizzlies, right? That were willing to trade Marcus Smart to Houston
For Klingon at 3.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Bobby Patton.
General Patton, another one of my coworkers, or actually, he's my boss. Thank you,
Heck
Bobby, for
yeah.
being here.
Heck yeah. We always appreciate the support. D'Lo says, I'm muted Shams, bro. Sick of them ruining everything.
Facts.
We do not have that on either. We're experiencing this purely. We are watching the draft, and that is how we're finding out.
I turned mine off because I did see the Risacher thing.
Oh, you did?
But I tried to act surprised anyway.
I didn't even notice, so you got me. And now that you say that, I just turned my phone over there.
Yeah, smart. I turned mine on Do Not Disturb, and I also flipped him over.
It wasn't in my line of sight to begin with, but just in case.
This is big for the Wizards, dude. I feel bad for that franchise. I was always a big John Wall fan back when we were like in middle school and then early high school aged. And unfortunately, he had a very injury-ridden career, and they never won anything really. But they have their big Alex Sarr. He's a Frenchman, and they have their guard in Bilal Coulibaly, who I believe we both are still very high on his potential. I think he continues to grow and fill out into his frame. I would honestly say the ceiling for him might be higher than even for Alex Sarr, and that's probably a hot take. But I really like his game.
Yeah, I mean, I get it being considered a hot take, but I actually don't think that's that crazy, and that's just because we've seen what he did last season.
This to us especially.
We don't know we don't know what Alex Sarr is going to look like yet. So I don't think that's that crazy to say. The other thing is I like what Washington did here. I think building around Bilal and Alex Sarr, like that's a good reset. You know what I mean? And they've got Brogdon this time. They've actually got a veteran in that Denny Avdija trade, and they're going to have another pick at 14 now as well. To supplement some guys. I think Jacoby Walter could be a name to watch there because they don't really have a shooting guard. They do have Corey Kispert, but they play him at the 3 sometimes. But yeah, we'll have to see how this all pans out, Ethan. But personally, I like them pairing Alex Sarr with Bilal and those kind of being their 2 building blocks for the future right now.
If they were ready to win now, I would say Kyle Kuzma's a great third guy because he's a scorer, and that's at this point what Bilal and Alex probably don't do that well is just score the ball, especially off the dribble. But if they can trade him and somehow get another quality first-round pick, their rebuild's off to a great start.
Did you just see what they put up on the screen, Ethan, for Alex Sarr?
I missed it. What was it?
They just had 2021 to 2023 overtime elite alum.
Right.
With Rob Dillingham,
Shout
the
out,
Thompson
Rob.
twins, and most importantly, the best player from overtime elite ever, Dominic Barlow.
Dominic Barlow. That's the biggest question. This is called a tease for those of you in the comment section. The most popular video for Jude and I this summer will be, do the Spurs bring back Dominic Barlow, overtime elite great, and Jude McLaren's favorite player? You'll have to wait and see what our opinions are. We won't give them yet. We got to tease it, Jude.
We already have. Do you remember that episode?
Don't tell the people. Don't tell the people. This is how we retain an audience.
I'm silent because I have no thoughts from my broken heart.
Is that Alex Sarr's brother or father?
That's his brother. That's Olivier Sarr. He actually plays on the Oklahoma City Thunder G League team.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes, I've seen him play Dominic Barlow many a times.
Who got the better of that?
I don't remember, to be honest.
Probably
the Oklahoma City Blue was pretty solid. Like Olivier, he put up some similar numbers as Dom. But yeah, I think actually we like split with them because there was one day where we played them like two days in a row. But with all that being, first of all, I love this comment. Dom Barlow walked so they could run. Facts. Without Dom Barlow, we don't get Wemby. Change my mind.
Do you see Bob Patton's comment there? That's pretty good.
Let me see.
Funny.
Just showed that Alex Sarr started playing basketball at age 4. Seems a little late in life.
Yeah, that's why he's a very raw prospect. If he had started at 2 like everybody else, he would be a complete player.
He would have been there. There would have been no questions about his offense, Ethan.
0.
Well, the pick is in here for Houston. We're just waiting. I wish we had more analysis here, Ethan, but I just want to find out. I'm sure it's going to be Reed Shepherd since they didn't trade it. Maybe it's Donovan Clingan and they surprise us, but I don't know. They wouldn't do that. They have Sengun.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking that.
Dude, Bobby Marks looking extra Mr. Clean today, didn't you?
He does.
He looking shiny. He got a nice chop. Here we go.
Stephon Castle.
Don't even.
There's Reed Shepherd. Michael Engel says, did the Spurs pick anyone yet? No, we have not.
Thank you for being in here, Mike. Late as usual.
Ethan, I saw, let me pull up something real quick. It was the end of Kevin O'Connor's final big board entry, or actually it was a mock draft entry for Reed Shepherd and the Rockets at 3. And what he said, it made me so sad, Ethan, because I agreed with everything about it, and I don't want it for the Rockets, but it's gonna happen. I'm finding it. I know it's in here. I sent it earlier.
Heart rate check. I should go put my heart rate.
Me too. Okay, here it is. Because of Shepherd's ability on and off the ball, it'd be easy to see him forming a dominant 2-man game with Alperen Sengun operating in ball screens and dribble handoffs.
Well, let's pray to God that Houston I almost said the F word. That Houston messes this up by trading Alperen Sengun and a billion picks to get Kevin Durant. Those rumors, I think that would honestly be detrimental for Houston if they were to do that.
Well, did you see what Matt Ishiba, the Suns owner, said today?
Yeah, they're not trading Kevin Durant.
So,
smart.
But dang it, man. This is such a good pick for Houston.
It is. He's gonna.
You've been seeing it the whole time. Sorry.
No, you're good. All I was saying, he's gonna fit seamlessly, and it's always painful for a Spurs fan to talk positively about Houston fans, but they're in for a treat with this guy, dude. The way he plays without the ball, the way he's able to shoot efficiently, 52% from three-point land last year. He's playing with ball dominant guys. Jalen needs the ball. Fred needs the ball. Heck, even Jabari Smith really needs the ball, but he's just gonna
Alperin
be
even.
Yeah, Alperin even, and I think obviously his game has a lot more has a higher ceiling than this, but he's gonna look like prime JJ Redick out there for these guys, at least initially. Just moving without the ball off of screens and getting wide open shots from 30, 35 feet. He's gonna have a great time.
And they're showing it right now on the screen. Can't forget about the 42-inch vertical as well from Reed. As much as there may be some one-on-one concerns, he tested a lot better than people expected
Yeah.
at the combine. But Ethan, the last thing that I'll say just about his fit there with the Rockets, and I concur with everything you said, is he's not going to have a ton of pressure on him coming into this scenario. He can just come in and be the backup point and really just, you know, like you said, play his best defense as he can, help defense as well, trying to stick his hands in passing lanes and then, just sniping off the ball with
Mhm.
all the rest of those ball handlers.
Ooh, you know what I just thought about? You said backup point guard there, but I'm gonna say he's the backup 2, and the defense from that
There you
bench
go.
backcourt with him and Amen Thompson is going to be a nightmare for our bench guards. That is elite backcourt defense, dude, and, like, both of them have the potential to be future all defensive team guys, without
I
a doubt.
I can't believe I blanked on Amen Thompson, dude. Because that also like if you say, "Oh, well, he's undersized to be a 2." Well, he's playing next to 6'7" Amen Thompson.
Yeah, and if Amen can shoot, if he gets to 35%,
But
then
even if he can't, like
I'm saying if he gets to 30,
right.
then it doesn't matter who's point or 2. It doesn't matter. They're just gonna switch it off. Whoever has the matchup is point guard.
But that when you talk about him next to Amen Thompson, that
Mhm.
really helps the size concerns potentially,
Unless I'm forgetting somebody
Man,
off their bench that's gonna also play a guard
no. You're
position, I don't.
so right.
And then if what's his name takes a leap, who's that small forward? Cam Whitmore, if he takes a leap and he's their backup 3, that's their scoring threat. That's their slasher. That's the guy cutting to the basket, getting isolation at the wing. Like their their bench unit with those 3 guys has a lot of potential.
I like this comment. Spurs are checking with LeBron.
Oh, we take Bronny here.
This is a good one too. Spurs are like, we're taking all out all our time. That would be that's just so us for us
Yeah,
to
it
take the
is.
full 5 minutes.
Pop's probably just trying to figure out how to work the phone. Oh, there we go. Pick is in.
Yeah, oh, finally. And I think I just saw Reed Shepard with Jalen Green there for a second. So he was already there to greet his
Dude,
new
I'm
teammate.
loving these suits, dude. These guys are cats or they're suited and booted. These are old school, like I don't even know what era this is, but I like how they fit. I was gonna say
Except
90s, but they're not baggy. Maybe 80s?
yeah, yeah. Except for old boy Rob and Stephon a little bit.
Yeah,
But they're wearing Spurs colors, so it's okay.
that's what matters. Look, we're getting the classic graphic that they pull up every single year of George Gervin and David and Timmy all on the Riverwalk boat.
I miss the Riverwalk.
Pretty sure that's not what the Riverwalk boat looks like.
It's not. No, it's just their graphic version of it.
These guys never been to San Antonio in their life.
Oh my gosh. I think the last time I went to the Riverwalk, probably
Pre-housing crisis.
like a year ago. I don't know.
I haven't
Can't
been in a
remember.
long time, dude.
I know for sure I went before the Alamo Dome game because we hung out there before we went. But there was another time I went after that. But yeah, Riverwalk is always good vibes.
Yeah, if you go at the right time.
Right. No, that's very true.
And you
I'm
gotta
talking about when it's chill and you can just go with like a group of
Oh,
people.
shout out Gorgie Jang on the camera right now in the Spurs room. You
Where
see
is
him? Front and center.
I don't think that's oh, there he is. Oh my
Yeah, he's right
gosh.
in the middle. Yeah,
I
he's right
saw the
there.
other I was looking at the guy past him, but let's see who the Spurs pick.
Here we go, here we go.
There it
There it
is.
is.
Spurs pick Stephon Castle at number 4. Look at his fit, Ethan.
Oh, dude, he's fitted
And
out.
he's got the castle chain. I didn't even realize that.
I
But
just saw that too. That's
he knew,
crazy.
bruh. He was in the silver and black. It was so obvious the suit. I hate to say it.
Yeah, look at him, bro. That's our guy. That's our man.
I wish I had more to say about him, Ethan, but we've already talked about him so much.
Yeah, this is exactly what we predicted in the last video. Not to toot our own horn, but I think a lot of people had us taking Castle at 4.
Oh, he's crying.
Yeah, this is great.
Mad love.
Mad love.
Welcome to San Antonio, Stephon. We love you. Welcome.
The future point guard.
Our boy Lou is in here, and he had Stephon Castle as his number 1 player on his big board. And he really kind of opened our eyes to a lot of different things about Stephon. There were a lot of
Yeah.
things we liked about him beforehand, but talking with Lou really kind of opened our eyes on that. So big shout out to him, because we probably wouldn't have been as high on him as we were, if it wasn't for all the information that he gave us.
First UConn player to win Big East Freshman of the Year since Rudy Gay, another Spurs connection that we hadn't made prior to this. So, yeah, and agreed with everything that you just said about Lou. Saucy Takes in the comments. If y'all go check out his channel, his Twitter, puts out some great content, especially about the draft. Miami Heat fan. Hopefully he has a good night like the Spurs are about to have. But yeah, this is the guy that ideally will be the point guard next to Victor Wembanyama, the franchise for the foreseeable future, hopefully a long time. His defensive upside, we've talked about it at length. His versatility, immediately an upgrade at that point guard spot as far as defense is concerned. Sure, there's concerns about can he be a traditional playmaker. I think he'll prove all of those guys wrong. Yeah, just does whatever it takes to win. Very, very excited to have him on the team.
So a little bit more information that I have actually recently found out over the past week or so, just since our last stream, or maybe I found out before but just forgot to mention it. So I was listening to No Ceilings final mock draft. They've done a ton of final mock drafts, but it was Tyler Rucker and Tyler Metcalf's specifically their show, their final mock draft. And the thing that they were talking about on Stephon that I did not know about, apparently when he was in high school, he was not that great of a defender. That was not something that was a strength of his. And they were just talking about the jump that he had. Obviously, being in UConn, being coached by Dan Hurley is going to do a lot there. But the jump that he had defensively from this past season to the next year, when they were talking about that, that's something that really gave me a lot of hope for his shooting. On top of the fact that, as we've talked about, that shooting can be taught. I forget who it was on NBA TV, but I was watching a pre-draft show before the ESPN draft coverage came on at 6:30, and he was basically just making that same point. If there's someone who's a dog, they go out there and whether it's defensive versatility, and he wasn't talking about Stephon here, it was some other player comp, but it was the same reasoning. But with that being said, Ethan, let me stop because Stephon's getting interviewed.
Yeah, let's take a look.
There's Dan Hurley.
Championship pedigree, yeah.
Look at this suit, dude.
The suit's crazy. The sparkly suit.
The colors. He knew.
I like that answer. It's about winning. Shout out Dan Hurley one time.
Future coach? Question mark?
Oh yeah, maybe. Oh, he hugged his boy Donovan Clingan. I didn't see that.
This guy is just scratching the surface.
Perfect player for the perfect team. That's great.
Oh my goodness, Ethan. Last episode, and I know I made my big board, but it wasn't. You really did convince me. And it's not even just because of our division. And I've been talking about our division a lot and been using SGA. I don't know what I thought, dude. The Thunder are not in our division.
You just think they are because they're so close to us. But yeah,
and it goes back to the Supersonics thing. They're in the Pacific Northwest because they moved from there. But right. And they still are in our conference. We're gonna have to see them in the playoffs. So that still applies. Same with somebody like Anthony Edwards. But man, I just feel like at the end of over this past week, and I know it's oh, you're changing your opinion, all that stuff, but I think Stephon does have a higher ceiling than Reed, and it just comes down to the physical traits. Because if he
Mm.
can get down, like if he can improve the shooting, like he improved his defense, and
Mm-hmm.
that was another detail. Like when I heard that, I'm like, man, like it just gives me a lot of confidence in him to develop in other areas. And the answer that he just gave too, like I learned how to win at UConn. And then you tie that into what Lou said when he told us,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't guaranteed anything. He wasn't guaranteed to be a point guard. He had to play the wing. He was coming, into a team that was bringing back most of the roster of a national championship team. And now he's going to get to play the position he wants. And we're going to have somebody who can go guard Luka Doncic. And Jeremy Sohan doesn't have to guard all of the big guards anymore.
Right. I think that's a great point to talk about just the matchup defense that we're going to have an opportunity to combat with all the tall guards in the West. But just speaking as a connective unit now, like there's still the gaping hole at the small forward position. Assuming we have Keldon off the bench, that makes Julian Champagnie our current starting small forward. And he's a solid defender, but he's nothing crazy. Right. But if we have Castle, Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, Victor Wembanyama. Those are now 4 guys that can switch. 4 guys that can basically guard 1 through 5 at times. Or Devin maybe just 1 through 3. But you know what I'm trying to say. So
Mm-hmm.
it alleviates some of the pressure off of Jeremy and Victor, who are no longer just the elite defenders on our team. Now we have an extra one. And if we can shore up that small forward spot, I'll be through the roof.
I completely agree. Shout out Tim Harris in the comments. Says, much rather listen to you guys than Stephen A. Smith anytime.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Gotta love that. Love all the comments right here. But now, Ethan, there's no trade. I mean, there has been talks about the Spurs moving the 8th pick, but I feel like if we were going to make a trade, it would have been up to number 1. We'll see. Maybe we're proven wrong here in just a couple of minutes. Or a couple picks. That's a better way to put it. But Ethan, now that we move on to this 8th pick, this is playing out as we've kind of, regardless of who we picked it for, we were thinking a guard at 4, right?
Right.
So now it comes down to that 8th pick with a wing. So this pick, I feel like this is going to be Matas Buzelis. I will say this right now. The pick is in, and Adam Silver's walking out. So let's hear if I'm right.
Ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum. Ooh,
Ron Holland.
you know what? I like this for Detroit, to be completely honest with you. Surprising reach, but it makes sense because they don't have an elite wing defensively. They're trying to rebuild that whole structure in Detroit. And what is their team historically built on, Jude? Defense. This is what he does. So I don't have a problem with this at all for them.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that I'll say about Ron Holland. If Ron Holland doesn't get injured or plays college basketball this season, this may not be a question. This might have been his floor. He was the number 1 player in the class coming out of high school. He still did lead the G League Ignite with almost 20 points per game and 2.5 steals per game in the games that he did play. And this kind of ties into the same point with Stephon, Ethan. Shooting can be taught, and I think that's definitely the mentality that Detroit is going with here. And I got that Matas thing way wrong. That's just crazy that it was Ron Holland. Like if it wasn't Matas, I wasn't expecting it to be Ron Holland. But they're sharing a moment here, so you gotta love that Matas is supporting his guy as well, despite this maybe being a pick where he could have been picked. But again, going back to Ron Holland, as much as Detroit definitely needs shooting, they've also kind of just got to go with best player available too. And almost 7 boards as well. I didn't even realize that. As much as he didn't play a full season, those are honestly, I mean, those are better numbers than old boy Matas. Granted, Matas had to play a lot without Ron Holland, where all of Ron Holland's numbers are next to Matas. But still, you see him right here, number 2 recruit. They're saying a lot of people had him number 1, but he played at Duncanville, dude. I mean, Duncanville, Anthony Black, who else am I forgetting? They've produced a ton of guys. They are just a powerhouse in sports in general. I mean, not just basketball. They produce top tier football talent like all the time. I could go on a whole rant about that, but the point is he comes from one of the most winning programs in the country nationally in high school. Like when you play for Duncanville, you are a D1 prospect. It's like their whole team. And that's a whole other thing. They actually got docked for recruiting and got like 3 of their state championships taken away when they won 4 in a row. But I think you're getting the point. He came from there. He was going to go to Texas and then decided to go with the G League Ignite and then got injured. Obviously, we've kind of already talked about that. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but again, with all of that history from high school, and maybe if there's not an injury this season, he might be, much higher in the big boards, because at the beginning of the year, if you were to go look at the Ringers big boards, he was in the top 5.
Yeah, he's a guy that we were talking about just at the very beginning of this live, about like a name we shouldn't be surprised if the Spurs took at 8. I think he was mocked in the Ringers' latest mock at 9. So very cool that he was able to jump up to 5 to Detroit. And when you really think about it, they're building their team currently around defense. So you're right, shooting probably was the number one concern for them, but they're going to have Jalen Duren, who's a defensive-minded big, a Sarr Thompson, who's a defensive-minded wing. I think they still have Beef Stew, who is technically a defensive-minded.
Talking about Isaiah Stewart.
Quentin Grimes, defensive-minded 3-and-D guy, and then of course their franchise player in Cade Cunningham. I feel like I'm missing somebody from that group. Like
there's a Jalen Duren,
Jaden Ivey.
Oh,
I didn't mention Jaden Ivey, but like when you think about Detroit in the '80s defense with like 2 guys that were like scorers, really, Isaiah and probably Lambeer. Honestly, I mean, you can argue that what's his name was a shooter. What's his name? I'm blanking.
Joe Dumars.
Joe Dumars, yeah, elite shooter,
Louisiana guy. I'm pretty sure.
Elite shooter. I don't know if you can classify him as a scorer, at least at that time when they were winning championships. And then again in 2004, just a bunch of defensive-minded, strong guys, and then Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton to kind of score for them. So I think that this is kind of a good identity move for them.
Yeah, I do. I totally see all of the appeal of what you just said. And if his shooting can improve and it can get, to just like a decent level in the 30s, 100% on board with that vision. But the thing is, like the Pistons' number one need, if you were to just look at, and stats aren't everything, but even on the tape, it was shooting. And he does have question marks there. So that's the only thing that I will say there. But Ethan, as the Spurs have known, everything starts with getting stops at the same time too.
For sure. And I hate to do this to you, Jude, but I have to use the restroom real quick. So I'm going to run. I'll be right back.
You are totally good. And guys, we are right now on the Charlotte's Hornets pick. So we're about to see if all that smoke and intel about Tijan Salon going right here to the Hornets is true. But let's see what some of y'all's comments are here. Wemby spotted. Did I miss him, Cowboy Tanaka? I think I did, probably talking with Ethan. Slade895 says, any chance Klingon falls to 8? I think it's definitely a possibility, but it wouldn't surprise me if Portland took him at number 7. I believe that was actually who Kevin O'Connor had them selecting in his latest mock draft, as the Hornets pick is in. And that ties in to old boy DeAndre Ayton not having the best year. He's only got 2 years on his contract. So it would not surprise me if the Blazers just wanted to replace Klingon at number 8. But the other thing I'll say is I've also seen some smoke of Tijan maybe potentially getting picked by the Portland Trailblazers. I know he went and did a workout with them as well. But again, with the report from Yahoo Sports earlier today, with sources telling them that Tijan is going to get picked right here, I'm just waiting to see as the pick is in. We got to get through this commercial break. So, Slade8995 says, you get it wrong the last time. Ethan's in here. We can't see his face, but he says, much rather connect Matas. What I would say, honestly, well, that was connecting Matas. Those are the other pick that I would have guessed for Detroit, Ethan, actually, I know it, bear with me here. The other pick that I would have suggested would have thought for the Pistons is actually Dalton Connect. And it's just because of the shooting and he's a wing. Now, I understand if you're going to compare, honestly, I think there is a chance that Ron Holland has a higher ceiling than Dalton Connect, especially considering Dalton Connect's 24 years old. But That was the other one that I would have picked just because of the shooting issue as well.
Mm,
The reason I said bear with me is like I understand 24-year-old Dalton Connect in the top 5, but also it's this year.
true. True. I wouldn't have been surprised to see that either. And now that I'm really thinking about it, I hadn't given much thought to Detroit prior to tonight. So any pick probably would have taken me a little off guard.
Yeah, I think I had just seen Matas Buzelis so much that I just assumed.
You know what assuming does, Jude?
You're so right. Jason Hefner here in the comments says Klingon at 6, Buzelis at 7, and Salon at 8. So we'll
Mm,
see if that prediction continues, Ethan. I'm really just I want to get through this freaking commercial break
I
so I
know.
can see if Tijon's going at number 6 because I want to see if those reports were accurate.
If not Tijon, who do you think they take?
Maybe Matas because he fell this far.
Yeah, that's going to be my assumption as well.
Dalton Connect, I'll throw that out there too. Maybe to play the 2.
I think I roll with Matas to be their future wing. Here we go.
The reports were right. Tijon Salon at number
Whoa.
6. Shout out Kristen Peak. She had this earlier today, bruh.
Who was that?
Oh, I missed that. I heard it, but I was looking at you. But I heard whatever you're talking about. But Tijon Salon at number 6. It's the same thing as Bilal, dude.
Wow.
He went from, kind of late in the process, fringe, like top 20 pick, and then here we are on draft night. What, Bilal was pick 7, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this is nuts. I really did not expect this, but you've been the one that's been preaching this Tijan Salon push for basically like a month now.
This is crazy. He went before Matas.
Yeah,
Wow.
Matas is falling.
I mean, that I just said that earlier that I would take him over Matas too, so I get it. But this is definitely an upside swing. They want a star. I mean, he's going to be a project, but they want a star next to LaMelo and Brandon Miller. I mean, this is trying to complete the big 3, and he's probably going to play the 4 because Brandon Miller plays the
The
3, and then you'll have Mark Williams at center.
Who's their 2?
That's a great question. I know Caleb Martin is on the roster. I don't think he starts.
I don't
Or
think so.
Cody Martin, excuse me, not Caleb Martin. He's on the Heat. But the other twin.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and look up their roster real quick, Ethan.
Yeah, if he pans out, this is actually a great move for them. I completely forgot about Brandon Miller, to be completely honest with you. So, yeah, power forward definitely a hole for them. Provides versatility, and especially next to, is it Robert? Not Robert Williams. You just said his name. What's their center's name?
And Mark Williams.
Mark Williams.
You got
Robert.
it. You're right there.
I knew it was Williams. Mark Williams. That front court's going to be dangerous defensively.
Okay, so Trey Mann, he was on the team. I don't know but this is like this year's roster. I don't know who is still on contract, to be honest with you. I know Grant Williams is on contract. They traded for him, and they want to replace him probably eventually. That's what Tijon's going to do. Amari Bailey was a pick they made last year. Same thing with Nick Smith, but both of those guys were in the G League for most of this year. Like I said, Cody Martin does play for them. Vasily Mychik, who played for the Thunder, who got traded there. I think he was their backup too. Probably him and Trey Mann were the 2 guys who played the 2 for them. But Trey Mann is a solid rotation player at the 2. But maybe with their next pick in the draft, they could be targeting another 2. That's another thing to keep in mind looking at their roster.
True. And now we're out to Portland on the West Coast, Jude.
I think I'm going to go with Klingon here. We were talking about it before when you were in the restroom, and it just, first of all, why are we getting Tony Parker and Richard Jefferson on the screen?
Yeah, I'm confused. Oh, because Richard played with a bunch of French guys. That's what they're talking
Okay, I was like, why are we doing a Spurs segment right now?
Play with Tony and Rudy.
That totally took my train of thought, Ethan.
No, we were talking about while I was in the restroom, you were talking about how Donovan Klingon is a likely pick to Portland here at 7.
Yes, and the reason that is, Ethan, is because they are falling out of love with old boy DeAndre Ayton.
Who's to blame them, really?
I know. That's why I think it'd be a good pick.
It's insurance for sure. My question is, if they're going to trade DeAndre Ayton, how much value does he have right now? What did they give up for him? How many firsts did they give up?
They're not going to get that value back, is regardless of
Mm.
what they gave up. You know what I'm saying? Just with the way that it's gone, unless he just kind of goes crazy out of nowhere. But here, Ethan, say they pick like Matas Buzelis here. Do we pick both UConn players?
Oh, ooh. You
See,
know
with
what?
Stephon, that's tough, right? And here's the other thing: Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley, I know you don't like the Lakers, but I know you like Wemby and both of these players. But let's see. We got to get through this one. It's probably going to be Donovan right here. And he's smiling. So let me
Yeah.
stop. I'm sure it's probably going to be Donovan just because I said that too.
Mm.
But Ethan, if that does happen, continue your thoughts.
I'm just trying to think about Portland's roster. They have their guards. I mean, they basically did everything but point guard and shooting guard, if we're being completely honest. Here we go.
And it's clinging.
There it is.
So there we go. Matas Buzelis still on the board at 8, Ethan. That is not something that I would have projected. And Tijon is off the board. So
There's a couple names here, Jude. There's a couple names that we have considered. The name we haven't considered is Montas Buzelis, who fell.
yes.
But we still have Cody Williams. We still have Devin Carter.
Dalton Connect as well is
Dalton
another
Connect.
option. I kind of, to be honest with you, man, I just kind of want to go with our mock draft. And it's not just because it's our mock draft. I think I have more confidence in Cody Williams jumper than I do Matas. And I don't really think, I mean, Matas is bigger than him. You know, he probably has some more positional versatility, but otherwise, I mean, really, a lot of their stuff is similar offensively and defensively as well. Other than, like I said, Cody Williams is 6'6", but he also has that wingspan. He might have a bigger wingspan than Matas. We haven't looked at Matas because we didn't think he'd be here, but that's kind of what I'm feeling right now.
Matas has a 6'10" wingspan, and Cody Williams has a 7'1" wingspan. I mean, it's only 2 inches, but I think I am in sync with you here, Jude. I think we go with what we did in our mock draft and we take Cody Williams at 8. That's my personal opinion. Because the upside, the versatility, the potential, if he's even remotely close to what his brother is, a guy that could play 3 or 4, guard multiple positions. I think his jump shot looks pretty good. I think with more reps, it becomes a really, really elite 3-and-D guy at minimum.
Yeah, and on top of that, Ethan, it's, the situation at Colorado had a lot to do with his shooting as well.
For sure. Exactly. I think that's a point that a lot of people are missing, June. I'm glad that you continue to emphasize it. When he took his shots, he made them. He just didn't take that many. But part of that, like you said, has a lot to do with Colorado's offense. He did what his coaches wanted him to do, and a lot of times that was to pass up open shots.
And I like this too from Slade 8995. He says, "Let's get Williams to enhance the OKC rivalry." I like that as well.
Yeah, I like that too. I like that sibling rivalry.
Ethan, what do you think of this comment right here? and this one.
Yeah, I think Mike Engel. I think we will probably do something very similar to that. I don't think we're going to go the full round.
When he said that, I thought like the time 8 p.m.
Oh no,
not like after 8 the pick. But now I'm seeing that.
Yeah, after the 8th pick. I think that's what
I was thinking.
I'm pretty sure that's what we had told everybody last episode.
Yes.
Was just after the Spurs are done, we'll do a quick breakdown and then call it for the Spurs because I don't want to.
No. Well, that's definitely what we're doing. I was just saying. I thought he was like bedtime, Ethan.
I mean, it kind of is. I do go to bed early. Mike's right. Thank you, Michael.
So it's both. It's both there.
It is both. It is both.
Can't believe it, Ethan.
Stephon Castle at 4. I'm still kind of like, I knew it was kind of going to happen, but I'm so excited too at the same time. Like minor shock, like it hasn't fully set in yet.
Mm-hmm. We've been talking about it and expecting it so much. I think it's a little, that kind of lessens the
blow.
Yeah, exactly. Eric Pacina says, how much G League time do these rookies get? So if we want to go off history, the last time we drafted somebody in the top 10, they started immediately. And that was Jeremy Sohan at number 9. With that being said, I think it kind of depends on who we pick here. But like if we would have drafted Tijon here, I could have seen Tijon getting like a month in Austin. Not a ton of time because he's still a top 10 pick, but I could have seen, just because it's going to take some time to adjust. I mean, I could have seen him, being the backup 4 too, but I wouldn't have been surprised by that. Stefan will not be in the G League. He will play immediately, whether he's a starter or not, but I have a feeling he's going to be a starter.
I think you have to start him. Because he was the 4th pick, and immediately you have to start building that chemistry between him and Wemby. Like, I don't think we can hesitate to allow him to build bad habits and not play with the starting unit. We need to start developing him now.
Yes, I completely agree. And as we've talked about numerous times, as much as we love Trey Jones a lot, on a future championship team with Victor Wembanyama, he is going to be a backup point guard.
An elite backup point guard.
And Trey Jones, you could school us in so many different things.
Dude, look at my guy popping the sweats in the t-shirt.
Do not take that as a bad thing. And where's
That's Timmy D. Timmy D's in the room. Look at him.
Look, he's got the bun on. Look at what is his t-shirt?
It looks like Questlove on the shirt.
So we got Gorgie, Pop in sweats and a t-shirt, Timmy with like a man bun, some shorts, another t-shirt. Here's RC.
Yeah.
He's kitted out, because he's RC. Brian Wright just made a call. I'm pretty sure we probably just put the pick in. Yep, the pick is in. All right, Ethan. This
Sorry, did you cut out? I couldn't hear any of that.
Okay, thank
you.
you.
You're back. You're back.
I'm back.
What the heck? It's the same thing that happened last time.
Dang it. Well, I'm sorry that that's happening. But basically what I was saying is that old boy Matas Buzelis, we did not expect him to be here at 8. Mm-hmm. So that adds even more intrigue to a pick that was probably going to be the most intriguing because of the potential options.
Yeah, this is a lot less certainty than I was expecting to have at 8, to be completely honest with you.
I've been seeing it in the comments, Ethan, and I think it is realistic. What if we pick Devin Carter here?
I won't be mad.
I won't either. I know a bunch of people. I'm seeing a lot of people would be upset with it, but there's a lot of things I think you got to think about with Devin Carter. I think Devin Carter could immediately come in and be the backup 2 potentially. Mm-hmm. He would definitely be an upgrade defensively over Malachi. Maybe you could argue him and Blake are similar, but honestly, he's older than Blake. And I know the college game is different, but I kind of feel like he's more NBA ready than those guys right now. But they're showing Rob Dillingham on the screen. That's another potential guard option that we could double up on that would be a little surprising.
Dude, I hate saying this continually because it sounds like I'm just trying to avoid conflict, but I wouldn't be mad with any of these guys. I think just like if I was up here picking, I'd select Cody Williams. But at the end of the day, here we go. I wouldn't be upset.
Wow. Rob with the shifts.
Wow.
Remember when we talked about this with Lou and we just kind of didn't think it was going to happen? Wow. The suits, bro. The suits told from the beginning.
Dude.
Okay. Let me give my thoughts here, Ethan, before we get an interview. Because I had this thought today and I was talking with a good friend of the show, Drew King, about this. And here he is. He says, shifty. And he's someone who has seen him be shifty in person multiple times. Rob is a 6-man. Think about him in that light. 6-man scoring plug, ignite, just ignite off the... I don't want to make this comparison, Ethan, but let me make it. I'm not saying this, but I think you'll get where I'm coming from. Mm-hmm. Has a lot of erraticness. Makes crazy shots, does some crazy stuff. Manu did that. Not the frame that Manu is. Obviously, we've talked about his defense at nauseum, but in the sense that he can just come in and make a bunch of crazy, exciting, high energy plays.
100%. I see that 1,000% because Stefan's going to start. That's without question. Stefan's going to start.
Dude, Rob, this is crazy. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Elite shooter. elite shooter, and that's the second biggest need for the Spurs, right? It's defense and then shooting, and then playmaking. He provides those two other needs: playmaking and shooting. And if he's able to develop that pick and roll play, if his size is not a question, we talk about smaller guards that aren't great at defense still having a lot of great play in the league. I think of Jalen Brunson. I think of Darius Garland, Trae Young. None of these guys are great defenders, but they're still able to contribute to their teams at an all-star level. So if that's where he's able to eventually reach, then we're excited about him at 8. If his ceiling is going to be something similar to what Jordan Clarkson, a 6 man of the year candidate that, like you said, is just elite shooter off the bench, totally fine with that as well, because we also have Stephon Castle at the 4th pick.
I completely agree with everything you just said, but this comment here from D'Lo is scaring me a little bit, which I wouldn't be completely opposed to. But did we just trade him to Minnesota?
I'm checking Twitter.
They're talking about it right now.
Yes, they have.
Wow. Okay.
Well, then
So
who are we getting back?
we were just picking somebody for somebody else there. So the trade rumors were true. I didn't mean to cut off what you were saying there, Ethan. I just saw that comment and I was like, no way. But I mean, because what I was about to ask, if I wouldn't have saw that comment, I was going to be like, is this the original scenario at the end of the day? Like, do we just end up, maybe playing Rob at the 1 and then playing Stephon at the
True.
at the wing? I mean, but I would have been cool with, the other thing that we were talking about too, because you wouldn't know about the possibilities. And when I say that, all of his family's got the Spurs stuff on. Where did you see it?
Woj.
Okay. Well, that's obviously true. They probably just don't know yet. Rob's about to be so disappointed. He's about to be so disappointed, to be honest.
Oh, I feel bad.
Well, actually, no. He's going to a good team. He's going
to a great team.
He'll be fine.
Him and Ant next to each other is really cool.
What the? The Timberwolves are trading a 2031 unprotected first and a protected 2030 pick swap for Dillingham.
Are we loading up to what?
Yeah.
Are we loading up to make a bigger move?
Yeah. That's what I'm wondering. Because that's why do we need 2 picks from the 2030s? I mean, I guess Minnesota won't be as good there, but I feel like we could have gotten something better for that. Am I crazy?
I am not sure. I mean, by that point, Minnesota should be bad again, right? If we're just going by the
right
averages. But I mean, it is unprotected.
Yeah, I guess if we're trading all these picks, this is the deal that we like the most. So maybe it was the best thing. I just feel like we could have gotten a little bit more value there, but I think we probably have had this for a little bit because I don't think Minnesota. Let me see when Minnesota picks if they even do in the first round. Wow.
The only thing I can think of is we are literally gathering assets for an eventual trade. The question is this sooner than we expected, or is this just we're planning for next year?
Yeah, and I already saw Woj. He ruined this pick for me, but Zach Edey at number 9 to Memphis. Honestly, as much as I've given Zach Edey a bunch of I've kind of like shoot away talk with him because I would prefer Donovan Clingan. The Grizzlies are trying to go back to getting somebody like a Steven Adams so they can play Jaren Jackson Jr. at the 4 and, kind of go back to what gave them success in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that there. I still wonder about him a little bit, but I see the vision that Memphis is going with here. But enough about that, Ethan, is before we finish up, we'll kind of wrap up this talk with Stephon Castle and this trade for Rob Dillingham. But we were talking about Minnesota. I was looking them up for something. Well, I guess is Mike Conley's a starter. Who is their point guard off the bench? I should know this. I watched the whole playoff series.
Yeah, I watched the whole series too. I don't remember.
I remember Nickeil Alexander-Walker, obviously. Monte Morris, and he's going to be gone. So actually, I can see why they would want Rob Dillingham and to have a spark plug off the bench just in the sense that we just talked about him. So I see his fit on Mini there for sure. And I think that's honestly a good trade for them.
It is. I think so too. Because how long is Mike Conley going to last too?
Right, exactly. I mean, and I don't even know how many years he has on his contract left, but I know that Monte Morris is a free agent, which means they need and Monte Morris didn't even play that much in that series.
Hmm.
But yeah, they've definitely got their backup point guard.
There is the whole situation too we haven't really talked about is we just didn't really have room for everybody. So maybe we're just trying to avoid having to cut somebody because we believe in them too much. Um,
A spot is open for Dominic Barlow, Ethan.
Bring him in for training camp. Bring him in for training camp.
Oh my gosh. No, okay, but in all seriousness though, that actually is a really good point. Keep it, especially if we're going to sign somebody.
True. Hey, you know what? It'll all be worth it once we see what we actually use these picks for, because it's either going to be a big trade
You're right.
or Minnesota sucks and we have like a number 3 pick in 2030. And we draft Jude McLaren Jr.
Wow. The thing is, they're going to be unprotected when they're not going to be the same team that they are right now. Like Rudy Gobert
Exactly.
on then. Well, okay, actually, the 2030 swap is top 1 protected, but still, even then, like that's the least protection that can be on a pick. But Ethan, okay, I don't want to go too off topic here, but we'll just say one more thing about the draft in general. Matas Buzelis is falling. This next
Yes, he
pick,
is.
I also got that ruined for me, and I'm not going to say who it is for anybody watching, but it is not Matas Buzelis. So that's very interesting. But Ethan, what is your final thoughts on this draft as we wrap up the stream?
A little surprising when we got to 8. I think it's exactly what we expected, and I'm very, very pleased with what we did at 4, bringing in Stephon Castle, elite defense, versatile player, the future point guard for the team. Obviously, we just traded the 8th pick for a pick swap in 2030 and an unprotected 2031 first from Minnesota. Initial shock, probably needs a day or two to sink in and really get an idea of what the Spurs are going to do here. But I envision a trade is coming, another one, a bigger trade. That's why we're trying to collect these assets. And maybe the Spurs know something that we just aren't privy to, because that's the kind of franchise we are. We just try and keep our cards close to the chest. But I can't lie and say that I would have been very pleased to have 2 guys coming
Yeah.
in, 2 rookies. Like that was what I was looking forward to, because as Cody Williams goes 10 to Utah. But we'll have to wait and see what the grander plan was here from the Spurs front office.
Yeah, that's completely true, Ethan. And really with this move, you know who it reminds me of, Ethan? Take a guess. It's a GM. It's a GM.
It's a GM.
It's one that we talk about all the time.
Sam Presti?
Yes. This is a Sam Presti type move.
It really is just collecting assets.
And then think about like the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander trade.
Mm-hmm.
I know that was very different because they were trading Paul George, but this is a Sam Presti-esque move. And if we want to just use all of these picks to go make a big move, that makes sense. And this could be a thing where they just feel good about Stephon Castle, getting him in the first round for this year. And like you said, it may not even be like a this year thing, but we're setting this up, for the future to eventually do this.
Right. And if you're going to trade a lottery pick, I guess this is the draft to do it. Right, because it's not exactly the strongest. Like we weren't about to get like a guaranteed all-star guy. Right, we were either going to get a project player in Cody Williams, or we were going to get a potential really good 6-man with maybe a higher ceiling in Rob Dillingham. So,
yeah, and as Tavat Plunderer says, 2 first-round picks for a weak draft is a steal. That's a good point, because if we're sitting here in 2030 and 2031 and they're talking about, all these potential, big stars, or it's just, much better than, like this draft, I can see that too. We did get 2 first-round picks for one. So that is, there's some good there at the end of the day. But Stephon, I mean, as much as I would have liked to see Rob on the Spurs, I also think that we already have Trey Jones too. So where was he really going to find playing time? Were we going to play him at the 2? Were we going to move Trey? You know what I'm saying? That roster wise, this actually, this clears things up a little bit more, unless you wanted to say that Blake Wesley, is kind of muddled up in those point guards, but we've talked about how we kind of feel like he might be transitioning to the two. And I feel like this pick and the way that this is all played out kind of signals that.
Agreed. I have nothing to add.
All right, Ethan. Well, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up this stream?
Go Spurs, go.
That is exactly how I feel as well. As much as this was interesting and we kind of got really excited there with the Rob pick to find out it wasn't the case, I still think overall, Ethan, this is a very solid draft for the Spurs, especially getting Stephon Castle. I'm very excited to have him in San Antonio. Love the suit. Love the defense he's going to be playing. Love the work he's going to be putting in the gym, putting up shots, trying to improve that jumper, Ethan. But most importantly, the defensive versatility of the Spurs, Ethan, is looking very good. And the other thing I'll say, we almost mentioned this earlier. I brought it up in the comments. Not having another draft pick does open up minutes for CD Sissoko.
Yes, it does. I almost forgot about our other French prospect that is just sitting on the bench right now. Maybe he'll get some meaningful time.
We shall see, Ethan. But we appreciate all of y'all being in here. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below if you enjoyed the content. And if you want to stay updated with all things SSPN, follow us on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at SSPN on YT, at Jude McLaren, and at Ethan_Quintero. We appreciate you guys. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Go Spurs, go.